Sorry if it's so loud. I'm redoing my roof and they are banging around. So if you can hear anything.
No, you're good. Life moves on even when the podcasts happen, right?
Right, right. Even if they're literally tearing your roof off.
The show
It's
must go
fine.
on.
The show
Yeah,
must be fun.
it'll be totally fine because I am super excited to talk about this today. You know, Lindsay, and I think most of my audience knows how obsessed I am with ClickUp. And when you first hired me to work with marketing, work with all the content we do, and you said, okay, like I'll buy you whatever tools you need to make things run smoothly operations wise. And I said, the only thing I need right now is ClickUp. We need ClickUp. And I have been one of the most obsessed users ever since. We've developed so many cool things in there, so many different automations. And I will use the tool. It never closes.
I love it.
I love it. It's a tab that never closes on my computer. It's always open. And it's the first thing that pops up when I restart my computer because I need it. I can't live without it. But I thought it'd be really cool today to do kind of a case study and dive in because ClickUp has been wildly successful, wildly popular. They've got such a loyal fan base. And it's in part, a large part of it, most of it, thanks to their social media presence. Partially on the company side with their many different kinds of accounts that they have, and then also partially because of their founder, one of their founders, Chris Cunningham, and the awesome personal page that he has on LinkedIn. So I thought today we would kind of dive into how did they make this work? What was so successful that they've done? And kind of how can you copy it for your own businesses? So yeah, Lindsay, anything you want to start off with that you notice you've loved that they've done?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, totally. ClickUp's killing it not only on the having it just an awesome product, but of course, the USI as marketers at heart love their marketing efforts. And I think you said it beautifully. It's on two separate stages. It's on the employee stage and on the company stage. And we can dive a little deeper into both, but on the company stage, like they have full teams around just creating killer content across a bunch of different profiles. And so they have, let's say on Instagram, TikTok, they have their ClickUp page, but they have ClickUp Comedy, and they have a bunch of different pages where they go and they test and they create content and they put it out from the company page. So internally, they have teams around just making amazing content where their customers and the world is showing up. On the same side, they have it out from their personal pages as well across LinkedIn. Like, yes, Chris Cunningham, Zeb, the founder, and then many other folks, Gregory, are all posting across LinkedIn around what they're doing and what they're building. And it's all different vibes. It's like very much playbooks from Chris, very much like from one of their head of marketing. It's just like amazing insight, in-depth reports. Nothing that feels salesy like that. I think that's honestly like the biggest part of this all. They've built a media engine inside their organization that doesn't feel salesy, doesn't make us like just shoving down our throats what ClickUp is. They let the content and the media speak for them. Like if it's good content, it's going to show up on our algorithms, but if it's not good content, it won't. And they really lean into that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know that one of the things that they've done is with the company side of it, so many people in their company making this a focus of what they do is they schedule in that time for it. I know Chris has said that they dedicate every Monday to getting together, coming up with content ideas, and then they batch work a lot of it. And then they have this whole schedule on how they test and iterate their content. I think it's just so genius that a company who has really nothing to do with social media, if ClickUp had no social media presence, the tool would still run, right? But their marketing hinges on all this. And so they treat it like an actual media company. I think that is just genius that they're putting so much thought and effort into this. And they're not treating it as just one part of the company, like, oh, that's the marketing division or whatever. But this is a whole company effort. And it really pays off because their stuff comes up on my feed all the time. I know it comes up on random people's feeds all the time that have nothing to do with marketing. And it's fun. It's fun content. It's engaging. It's exciting. Anybody that's been in any sort of corporate space at all can relate to it, which is awesome because that's their customer, is anybody in pretty much any field, no matter what you're in, can use their content. So they're really appealing to their ICP perfectly. I think it's really fascinating.
Yeah. I like how they take two paths. They take where they're leaning into creativity, they're allowing the culture to set up employees to create content and give them time. But on the other side, they're making it a strategic business decision and the way they run their content. For example, they have Chris has this framework like the ABCD, where A is 40% of content that's just proven winners. That's worked. They're going to do it. It's done well in the past. 30%. B is concepts that worked elsewhere. C is trend riders, 15%. And then D is just wild experiences, 15% as well. And they post like the guaranteed A content on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, they test out their other content. And they have a structure around it where they are leaning. It's very, very strategic, where they're leaning more and more to content that works and less that hasn't. And then even down to the hires, like even down to the people that they're hiring, they've hired actors and comedy writers and people that are really actually qualified to do this. They're not just like a random intern to be the best comedy writer in the world and the best actor in the world. Like they're putting their time, their effort, their marketing dollars into building up this media company that does millions and millions of views a month. I think they've become really the blueprint that so many companies are going to look to mimic in the years to come, because the content is so good. And like I mentioned, if content is good, it will show up in algorithms. If it's not, it's going to show up. It's like honestly a waste of time and resources right now to be creating content of companies if it's not going to make good, because then it literally won't show up. I guess my question for you too, kind of following up on that, is like, how can companies balance like the creative fun with just like the actual strategy, whether if these companies are bigger or smaller?
I think that it's all about having the goal in mind. So what are the numbers you're going for? What are the goals that you can visibly track and visibly see? And as long as you're hitting those goals, you know the direction you're going in, give them full creative control and let's just see what happens. I love that he has that 50% of just the experimentation. Like, what would happen if we do this? I think it's so cool to see a company that has such a pulse on where social media is right now, and they're so in tune with it. And it's really showing. Chris posted this past week, which by the time this episode comes out will probably be 2 weeks ago. But it was something about how he had a post that they put out on, I think it was Instagram or something like that. And it didn't do very well. Got a couple thousand views. And so they were going to trash it. And he said, wait, no, I really feel like this is going to do well on this other platform. They pivot, put it on another platform, and it blew up and went so viral. So they have this wonderful sense of individual platforms and what does well on different platforms versus others. And they have that creative ability to test and to, even if it doesn't make total sense, why not run with it and see what happens? And it's worked out amazingly well for them. So I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so cool because we're saying there's two different silos of company content and employee content. But I think they go really, really hand in hand. Because when I think it comes to content creation, it's very similarly to sports. You can read about sports, you can watch movies that's about sports, you can go to lectures about sports. But if you're not actually going out there and throwing the baseball, you're never going to be good at baseball and like playing sports. And I think content is so beyond similar. If you're not actively creating content yourself as a marketer, as a person, you'll never understand the nuances of why that lands or what that doesn't, or the importance of like creating content that stands and lives no matter the economic, political climate. Like, I feel like content is such an important skill to have as a marketer, because content is literally how you show up to your customers right now. And I think it's so cool that they're prioritizing company profiles and all on platforms that work. Company content doesn't do well on LinkedIn, but done right, it does really well on TikTok and Instagram. But they're also having employee profiles that are going out and creating content. And I think it goes so hand in hand, because it gives the space and the time per week that allows employees to go out and post and learn the craft and learn how to play sports for content creation, that allows them to be so successful on the company side. And it goes hand in hand. And I think that is something that we'll see more in 2026, is companies that are doing both. I think it's a tough thing and it's not as popular because it takes time, it takes resources, but I think ClickUp has really killed it on doing both, which I think is why they're so successful right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. We also can just look at a numbers game on how much content they're doing because they've got ClickUp, ClickUp Comedy, they have every platform, and they have their employees posting. So the odds are, as you're scrolling, you're going to find something about ClickUp because it's everywhere. And they're posting so much content, up to 10 posts a week. And that just means this flood of content. And the odds are right that something is going to do well. And they've proven time and time again that many of their posts do really well. In addition to a numbers game, though, if you were a company wanting to pull from the ClickUp playbook, what would you say, Lindsay, to companies bigger or smaller? How could they use this strategy to do well on their own content?
First of all, I want to toss you a question. ClickUp creates so much content, so much content. Does the amount of content matter?
And I think it's a balancing game because you could get this tipping point either way. This tipping point where you're not creating enough content and you're not really going anywhere and getting the experience and staying up to date on what's going on. But you could tip it the other way where you're creating too much content. You're getting burned out. You're not using as much creative ability. And it's just feeling like a chore. And people can tell when there's no heart and soul in the content. So I think it's about finding that balancing act of enough content to keep up your skills, to keep up to date on what's up on social media right now, but also not getting burned down from it. And that's something that they actually have talked about at ClickUp is that they've tried to push for more than that 10 posts a week and that they saw such a decrease in quality. So that 10 posts a week for their team is a sweet spot. Now, a different company, their sweet spot might be somewhere else depending on the size of the team, their bandwidth, how much, if they've got a product or lunch going on that week. There's so many different factors at play, but I think it's important to find that sweet spot. So test it out in either direction and see how it impacts your content and what's going on with that.
Yeah, no, I think it's on point. I think quality content matters, and it really comes down to as much quality content that you can put out per week is the benchmark. Whether that's one post or whether that's 10, depending on the size of your team and the allocation of resources you can. More content's always better, but more quality is always better too. And it's just finding that place in the middle. Remind me, what was your question again?
Oh, I was asking if you were giving advice to a company wanting to use this ClickUp playbook, bigger or smaller company, how would you recommend that they get started?
Yeah, I would recommend. So right now, I would basically partner with AI and say, okay, give me the full ClickUp, which will probably have this actually in a post, so you can use this if you want. But basically, give the whole playbook in depth for ClickUp, like the amount of posts per week, how it works. Like I want the nitty gritty on how they make their strategy. Plus, then add in your own. For example, I want you to make this strategy playbook super relevant to me and my company. So it's me, my founder, and I have 3 marketers and 4 interns. So here's kind of the bandwidth. This is what we're already posting. This is what we're already seeing. Here's our customers. Basically throw in everything that you have with your own information into the AI as well. So here's let's work with ClickUp. Here's our own company profile, what we understand works in the industry. Here's our customers. And have AI give you first round of like, okay, cool. Like here's actually a great information on what this looks like when it comes to your guys' own strategy. And then start baking into your team like weekly, like here's what we should be doing every week, and here's the flow, and starting to actually put it in your systems. And then also seeing like where you can even connect AI agents to make it like a little bit easier while keeping humans in the mix. Basically like making it a sequence of time every single week that you can commit to as a company in order to keep up that quality and also amount of per content. But anything that you would add to that?
I think that's beautiful. Yeah. I think that's the differentiator is you need to make it fit what you're doing. So love it.
Yeah.
ClickUp, reach out to me.
ClickUp. Look for 50 guys.